The big highlight of Dragon Ball Super Episode 83 was the birth of the princess herself, the second child of Vegeta and Bulma. Her name is Bra, or is it Bulla? This has caused a big discussion in the fandom for the last couple of days about what do we call her? Do we call her Bra? Do we call her Bulla? And the answer is both and neither, or something. I don't know. But to talk about this, I brought on somebody who speaks Japanese significantly better than me. He is the man who pretty much translates everything for us, or at least like 90% of it in the modern Dragon Ball era for Super. Everybody should know who he is by now. He's been here before. We have a series together. His name is Herms. Hey, Herms.
Hello.
So we're talking about Bra and Bulla. They're the same person, but Vegeta and Bulma's second daughter. Now, we have the Viz manga that called her Bra. We have the dub that called her Bulla, and most of us pretty much, and I'm pretty sure, I think Sabat actually confirmed this, that they changed her name from Bra to Bulla because it was a censorship thing. They didn't want to name a character Bra who was going to be on a kid's TV show. But in the Japanese version of Dragon Ball Super Episode 83, you hear Bulma say Buddha. So it sounds like she's saying Buddha, B-U-R-A. Explain to us what's going on, man, because you're the fluent Japanese speaker.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, at heart, I wouldn't even necessarily consider this a name change because they're both valid romanizations of the Japanese spelling. So it's the same thing, back with when Beerus was introduced and there was a whole long period of not knowing what his name pun was and different theories being floated. And so even now in, I think, Portugal and Latin American countries, they call him Bills.
Yes.
Which is one potential way of romanizing the name, but you could also do Birusu, which is kind of the direct one.
BDC.
And then for the English, we ended up with Beerus, which is based on the fact that his name comes from beer and virus. But these are all his name is the same. Like he only has one name in Japanese, and these are just different ways of different spellings, which are all on its own, they're all equally valid. The only reason why we would prefer Beerus is because we know for a fact that his name comes from beer, and therefore, spelling it Bills doesn't really make any sense in that context.
Right. It's interesting, Herms, because Steve Simmons, when he subtitled Battle of Gods, in the sub version on the Blu-ray, he calls them beers, no you. So if you're watching it dubbed and then subbed, or dubbed with the subtitles on, they say Beerus, or they say Beerus in the English dub, but in the subs it says beers, and neither one is incorrect.
And that's why that extra U is there in the dub spelling, and then in the dub spelling, whereas it's not in Simmons subtitles, because if it's Beerus with the U, then it matches both beer and virus, the original spelling, the original name pun that kind of got overruled when Toriyama mistakenly thought it was beer and then changed it to that.
Yes.
And so why this is relevant now with Bra is that, so we know that for a fact, Toriyama has confirmed this in the Dragon Ball Legends guidebook, that this character's name is based on a brazier, in keeping with the theme of Bulma's whole family. So Bulma is from Bloomers, Trunks obviously, Briefs. And even though Bulma's mother is never officially... Yeah, Tights, her sister. And then Bulma's mother is never referred to by name in the Japanese version. But Toriyama said in that same name pun guide in Deep Dragon Ball Forever, the guidebook, he said that even though he did not give her a name, had he given her a name, he probably would have named her Panty. So, which is kind of another kind of a weird thing to get your head around. It's like she doesn't have a name, but she has a name which she would have had he given her a name.
Yeah, just the name pun, I guess, family, again with the vegetables being the Saiyans and whatnot. But it gets confusing, Herms, man, because now with the Crunchyroll / Daisuke subs, now one thing I want to clarify for people is that the subs are, and this is according to you actually, the subs are pretty good, but the names are confusing. Now, the actual names of certain things. Now, Herms did a Kanzenshu podcast, which I will link down below for you guys to check out, where he and Vegito EX went in depth about some of the weird changes in the Crunchyroll subs. Like, for example, their use of King Kai Fist and Supreme Kai Sama. It's almost like they're mixing Japanese prefixes and suffixes with English dubbed terms, but yet Herms, King Kai Fist That's like a reference from Budokai 1. Like it's very strange how they do that.
I mean, I don't think they're referencing that game specifically, but yeah, it's like, well, I assume what happened is that they were told that for Kaio that they should translate that as King Kai, and then no one told them that for Kaioken they should leave that as Kaioken. And so, of course, Kaioken is literally Kaio's fist, the fist of the king of the worlds, etc. And so, because if it actually is internally consistent that if you call Kaio King Kai, then you would call Kaioken King Kai fist.
Yeah.
Because the attack is named directly after. Like, that's the idea behind the name, is that he invented this attack and named it after himself.
It's almost too literal and then not literal enough in a weird way.
Yeah. And anyway, so obviously so I don't know exactly why they did, but I assume just some miscommunication, because they also translate Masenko as Demon Flash, which is an accurate translation, but traditionally the attack has been left untranslated in the dub and the Viz manga and pretty much any official English release.
Yeah, and that's the thing about when you talk about Dragon Ball translations is you've got moves like the Makanko Sapo, which is the special beam cannon, but in early episodes of the redub of Kai, they call it Makanko Sapo. Later on, they go back to the original dub name. So there's a lot of confusion here when it comes to translating names. It's just been a common thing in Dragon Ball since 1995. Heck, you could even go back to the Harmony Gold dub when they called Goku Zero, but that wasn't a translation mistake. They were just changing names. But with Bra, okay, I've been saying that the issue, Herms, is that with Bra, it's like if you're gonna call her Bulla, which is the English dub name for her, I don't have a problem with that. But if you're gonna say Bulla or Buddha, it's almost like you're saying, Torankusu or Seru.
The way the Japanese language and the Japanese writing system is structured is that they divide things up by syllables. And so, for instance, there is they do have single letters for like a, I, u, e, o, the basic syllables, but they don't have a specific letter for K. Instead, they have 5 separate letters. This is in regards to hiragana and katakana, the phonetic Japanese alphabets. Instead of a single letter for K, they have ka, ki, ku. Like, they have a separate letter for every combination of K and one of their 5 vowels.
Yeah, so it's not just K and A, it's K and A, K and E, K and I together as one letter.
Yeah, and literally, I mean, from our perspective, it's like, oh yeah, it's 2 letters together. But from their perspective, it's a syllable. Like, they don't think in the terms of like K as a separate letter. It's like that concept for them is literally foreign.
So those of you out there who want to learn Japanese, all right, get ready. You're going to have to learn a new alphabet pretty much, Herms, or actually, I think it's multiple alphabet. Now, the word bra in the English language is spelled B-R-A. In Japanese, though, based on what you just told me, it would be B-U-R-A, yeah. Buddha. And that's why she says Buddha, right?
Yeah, so this is 2, in English, bra is 3 letters, and bulla is like, God, I'm stupid, 5 letters. And but in Japanese, it's just 2 letters, 1 letter for BU and then another letter for RA. So this gets complicated. Like, for instance, when the Japanese write foreign words in their alphabet, this is when the fact that they can't write a consonant on its own without a vowel on the end becomes an issue. So because they have to have, like, they can't pick nothing, they have to pick something. And so they select O. If it's a T sound or a D sound, then they select O as the syllable, which when adapting English or other foreign words into Japanese is dropped out, essentially. It's just irrelevant. And so, like, Dragon Ball in Japanese, Doragun, which is interesting because for the first O, Dora, that's dra from English. So in that case, the O after D is irrelevant.
Yeah, like, we drop it, so it's dra. Yeah.
I guess it's been misleading to say that like the do is in dragon is irrelevant. It's only irrelevant from the perspective of us as English listeners, where it's like they're using it to adapt our words into their alphabet.
Yeah, it's mostly based on sounds in the Japanese versus the actual, I guess, what's the word? The letters, I suppose it would be the best way to put it, right?
Well, that's the thing. In Japanese, there's no difference. It's like every letter corresponds to a sound.
To a sound, yeah.
And it's not. And it's always the same. Whereas in English, one letter can correspond to multiple sounds depending on how it's used in a word.
We don't say, hey, what's your bra size? You know, we say bra size. You know, that's the way I've always perceived it, Herms. Simplify things.
Generally, we'd want to adapt these words, these fictional character names into English based on what they're supposed to be puns on, or, you know.
Yeah, like Torankusu and Hito and Seru, like those are all Japanese pronunciations for English words, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, so we, you know, the reason why it's stupid to call trunks Torankusu is because we know that it's from the English word trunks.
For the sake of consistency, using the Japanese terms, if you want to use dub terms, that's fine. I mean, we switch back and forth all the time. But for consistency purposes, if you're going to say Bura, then, or Bola, then it's like saying, you know, Torankusu or Furiza. Or another example is Snow. Her name is Snow, but in the dub they call her Suno, which is the Japanese approximation for snow. Suno, but her name is Snow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pun on, it comes from the English word snow. So, I mean, saying like what her name is or not, it gets kind of,
you know what I mean,
physical. Yeah, it gets kind of convoluted, but it's like we know what her name is based on, which I would argue it should dictate how we write her name in English. It's wrong in this context because we know that her name comes from snow, which in English doesn't have a U in it, so there's no particular reason to keep the U. So it's not wrong, but it's suboptimal.
Would you say that Bola is suboptimal? I mean, it's legitimized by the dub, but I don't know, you know. Okay,
so in Japanese, they don't distinguish between R and L sounds. You know, they have just a set of characters for the various R sounds, which they will use also when adapting foreign words to serve in place of an L. Bra's name, even though it's the same character, in this context, it makes sense to use it to keep it as RA because we know that it's from Bra, which in English is written with RA.
Yeah, so the bottom line is her name pun is Bra. It doesn't matter what you call it, Bra or Bola. I mean, I don't really care, but you can't say that Bra is wrong because just because Bulma said Buddha, it's because, like Herms explained in this video, because you have to have a syllable there because that's how the Japanese language is structured. Is that the right way to conclude that?
Yeah, essentially. It's just... Yeah, and I think actually, like, people are kind of, if you grow up on the dub, if you're used to hearing her name as Bula, you will be on the lookout for that. Like, you'll be trained to hear that. So when Bulma says that, you hear it as Bula. But whereas on the flip side, even though, like, I don't think many English speakers, I don't think they're noticing Frieza, that it has that same kind of U sound in there. But since they're trained to just hear it as Frieza, they're probably not, it probably just goes past them.
Do you understand how hard it is for those of you out there for Herms to do this sometimes? So if you're out there, if you want to call her Bra or Bola, look, just don't fight over it. Let's for real, no more fighting, all right? Bra is supposed to be her name. If you want to call her Bola, I don't really care. Just don't fight. I mean, do you agree with that, Herms?
Yes, we shouldn't fight over bras.
With that said, we'll catch you down the road. By the way, guys, real quick, this is the 13-minute version of our conversation. The full one was actually half an hour, but I edited it down to make it a simple, shorter video. So if you want to hear the full conversation with me and Herms, the link is going to be in the description. 30 minutes of tons of Japanese lessons and all kinds of great information. So check that out down below. It's an MP3, not a video, MP3. The raw audio of me and Herms' conversation. Check it out as a bonus to you guys. Also, I have another Bola-related video coming out later tonight. Thank you, as always, for your support. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you tonight for that video.